Hey everyone, Christopher Dixon here. We're in our video series 20 Tips for 2020, and we started this video series this spring. Each video is a fairly short video, and the idea behind the video series was for professionals like you and like me to revitalize and grow our church or our business, or perhaps a small to medium-sized organization such as a nonprofit or something similar to that. However, when we started the video series, of course, like you, we had no way of knowing that a pandemic was going to hit this spring and affect virtually all corners of the earth. So the original video 3 that we're in today was talking about authentic leadership in an attempt to grow your church or grow your business that you own or you help run or that you're involved with. Same thing with your small to medium-sized organization such as a nonprofit. What that has turned into for most of us is merely an attempt to survive and to hang on during a pandemic. So one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly today, a tip for you as a leader, in addition to, of course, making sure that you're exercising self-care during this time and taking care of yourself, I wanted to share with you 2 characteristics in authentic and effective leaders that we have seen over the last several weeks as this pandemic has really played out all over the globe. And I want to give you a couple of examples. We in our family and some of my professional colleagues are involved with organizations that really there's all ends of the spectrum. But one end of that spectrum is leaders that responded very poorly to the pandemic, and then this whole spectrum, and then the other end of the spectrum, which is leaders who we have seen, women and men who have responded really well for their organization or their church or their business to the pandemic. And so my question briefly for you today is, what are the differences in those 2 types of leadership styles? And let me kind of outline what the worst case scenario was and then the best case scenario and where that can help you and I in our leadership styles with the businesses, the churches, and the small to medium-sized organizations that at this point we're wanting to get through 2020 successfully so we can hit the reset button on 2021. But let me first tell you the downside. We have seen some leaders in some various organizations that we're involved with. I certainly don't want to identify whether it's a church or organization or small businesses, but when this, as far as the United States, really started to take hold in early March, and we recognize that it took hold in other places before that, but when we really, that first and second week of March here in 2020, started to see that the pandemic was really going to be something, the kind of the worst leadership that we saw on that end of the spectrum was leaders who were very slow to recognize, whether it was with their church or their business, their nonprofit of some sort, that this could perhaps end up being a very serious situation for their church or their business or their organization. So in those situations, those leaders responded very slowly perhaps, were slow to recognize and catch on to the fact that this would affect virtually all types of in-person gatherings. And so that literally affects every type of business just about, unless it doesn't deal with people. Of course, it affects churches and small to medium-sized organizations. So that's one end of the spectrum. Then we saw the other extreme where we saw great leadership in play. And those women and men were ones who, especially by mid-March, if we tried to put a time frame on it, were responding very quickly, sending emails, text messages, responding on social media, meeting with their boards or their different groups to make sure that the contingency plan or the backup plan was in place. So our tip for this video number 3 for 20 tips for 2020 is this. Effective leadership is leadership that is optimistic, but is also leadership that is responsive and authentic in the face of any type of crisis. And in this case, it's a pandemic. So authentic and responsive leadership that is able to move quickly and adapt to the situation at hand. We will come along here in the next week or 2 and do video number 4, which will also be in response to this global pandemic. But for today, be encouraged and know that you as a leader are doing everything in your power to encourage those around you, whether it's your church, your business, or your small to medium-sized organization, particularly in such a time as this. Talk to you soon.